Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and threw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Do you like to be outdoors like I do? If so, unlock the wilderness with Onyx Maps. It is your ultimate guide to exploring, hunting, and conquering the great outdoors. With detailed maps, real-time tracking, and exclusive access to public and private lands, Onyx Maps is your key to adventure. Discover the possibilities and never get lost again with Onyx. So subscribe today using the promo code K920, letter K, number 920, and know where you stand. It's another wonderful Wednesday for another What's Up Wednesday, where we're going to get all of our canine training know-how. And I've got 2 things going on training-wise that we're going to talk about. First, we're just going to catch up on what's going on, right? So if you've been following my reels, I've got a litter of puppies that are now 19 days old. And I've got 6, 3 males, 3 females. And you guys know that I like to do the ENS, which is the early neurological stimulation. So I've got a lot of comments on how it doesn't work. There's no proof, no science behind it. The military quit using it, so on and so forth. So I dug a little deeper into this, and I just want to tell you what I found out. Everything's out there. If you type in peer-reviewed journals, there are 3 peer-reviewed articles for the ENS. Purdue University, you can go to purdue.edu, and they actually did one that says that there is no benefit from it. And then there's several with the American Veterinarian Journal of Medicine actually did one that has some really good points in it. So let me just run over real quick what I found with these and what my personal thoughts are, okay? So Purdue says it doesn't work. Let's talk about the Army. This started back in the 70s when the military was actually running a puppy program. So this was called the Super Dog program, right? And of course, we know that the military does not do puppy programs anymore. So that was one of the reasons they went away from it. And I'm going to check with, in August when I go to Hyatt, I'm actually going to talk to some people that was involved in some of that in Lackland Air Force Base back in the 70s, and just kind of pick their brain a little bit about it and maybe get a little bit more knowledge for myself. But the 3 articles, the one article I thought was really good, talks about, doing the ENS. And just really quick, it's from day 3 to day 16. It's a series of 5 things. You take a Q-tip, go through their pads, then you take and hold the puppy up for 3 to 5 seconds, take and hold the puppy down 3 to 5 seconds, hold it on its back 3 to 5 seconds, and then you put it on a cool, damp cloth for 3 to 5 seconds, and that's it. And it did say that if you do this over 5 seconds, you can cause adverse effects, okay? So we never do it past 5 seconds. Most time we're at about 4. We kind of keep it in the middle. But onto the article. So the article said that there was several studies done in Europe with it was 156 pups, I think. But basically, they categorized the pups and they tested them at 7 weeks old. But what they did find is that whether you done the ENS or you were very big into just hands-on socialization with the pups, that they did see a benefit from one of the two, like either one, right? You don't have to do the ENS. You can just be hands-on with your pups every day, doing things with them and creating that bond at a very young age. And they did say that they seen a positive when that was done, when the pups were left alone and not fooled with. They showed some, I don't know what the word to use, but they showed some things that weren't desirable for us to pick out if we were going to pick those pups. So you can go read that article. I'll link it. I'll try to link it to this podcast so you can go pull it up. And once you pull that up, like 15 other articles pull up about testing puppies and the fear stage of puppies. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And I started reading and reading and reading, and I'm still not finished. But I just wanted to get everybody up to speed on that. There is no negative effect from doing it. Okay. So my thought process is what does it hurt? We like the interaction with the dogs. We like to have our hands on the dogs. We like to watch traits being formed and what they're doing with each dog. And that's, I'm pretty lucky because I can keep the pups up to 6 months old if I want to, or whatever. Like I said, the last litter out of 5 puppies, I've kept 4 and they're 10 months old. And I know that I'm not going to be able to hunt them all. So I haven't figured that out yet, but we're working on it. So it does not hurt for the ENS. It does not hurt to do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. You can do socialization just like you would do any other thing, and that seems to be just as effective. Now, let's talk about the puppies. So it's kind of interesting. So we done the ENS from 3 to 16 days. We start our worming with Nemex at 14 days, and 2 weeks, and we do 2, 3, 4. I think it's 6, 8, 10, and so on and so forth. We've ordered our vaccines. You can go to Jeffers. You can go to Valley Vet. You can go to Ally Vet, ALLIVET, and get all these shots. They ship them in on dry ice. So we got a tray of that for the pups to start the shots. And we need to give them the shots and get everything up to date. And you can literally take the stickers right off of the vials and put them on a sheet if you have a sheet where you want to keep when you wormed them and what you've done. We've cut the toenails twice now. Okay, they're 19 days old. But one of the things that I thought it was very interesting is these pups up to about day 14, 13, 14 were very, they were just pups. They were laying around sleeping. They weren't very active. And day 14 is like they kind of come awake. And at day 16, like they're a bunch of hoodlums. Like their eyes still haven't developed clearly, but they're everywhere. They're into everything. They're tussling back and forth already. They're trying to establish the dominance in the litter. You can see a couple one of the males, man, he'll stand over top of some of the other pups. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. I'm going to watch it as he develops and see if that becomes an issue. And if I see it starting to be an issue, I'm going to take care of it, nip it in the bud, right? But yesterday we were sitting outside, and I just pulled up a bucket and was sitting there watching them, just seeing what they do. And one of the dogs come and was kind of roughhousing. Now listen, they're 18 days old. They were roughhousing the other pup, and that pup growled, like, give a little growl. And the other dog went on. And I'm like, this is 18 days old. Their eyes aren't fully developed. Their hearing's not fully developed. But they signaled that they were not happy with what was going on through the growl. Hey, warning, right? A growl's a warning. Don't do that. And the other dog understood it and went on about his business. 18 days old. I can't tell you that I have paid that much attention before. It may have happened in all my litters. I don't know. But it stood out to me yesterday. Um, Thought that was very interesting. Growl, 18 days old, bam, dog was already communicating, I'm not okay with what you're doing. And that's what a growl means, right? So, anyway, that's kind of where we're at. We're at 19 days. I just spent, I don't know, 30 minutes outside with them, just doing the same thing, sitting on a bucket and seeing what they were doing, just how they were acting. I've got a female. She's one of the bigger pups. Like, she's very lazy, right? The other ones are pretty active, but yesterday when I went outside, she was curled up sleeping. That don't mean anything because I'm not out there all day long, so she may be busy all day long and just be napping, right? Um, but she's been sleeping both days I've been out there, and then the other dogs are pretty active. Uh, yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch them develop. We've raised 4 litters now. We've got the A litter, the B litter, the accidental litter, and this litter. So 4 litters. That's 24 pups in total. And these pups at 14 days old were the biggest by weight. So we weigh them incrementally too. These pups were the biggest pups that we've raised at that age, right? 2 weeks old, right? 14 days. So I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to their growth development because the A litter was pretty big. I mean, Spook's 64 pounds, got good legs on him. Fancy is a little bit bigger than Spook. She's a little bit bigger boned than he is, and most of those dogs are, in the 60 to 70. Axe is plus 70 plus. Ari's probably 70 plus. August is probably right. Her and Addie are probably about the same about 60 pounds. So I'm curious to see how they develop and if the size at this age means anything moving forward. But I will say that I'll tell you a little background on this to set up what I'm going to tell you. So Pearl is a great granddaughter of my old ring dog, which was a lipper bred dog. His mama was a lipper bred dog. He was out of AR. AR was out of a half black and tan, half um, Walker. The Walker went back to House's Bali. The black and tan was a Screaming Eagle female. So we've got a little bit of diversity in there, right? But Ring looked like a registered Walker dog, but AR's mother was a dog that I had, that her name was Kitty. Kitty was a big, big female. And when I mean big, like she was pushing the top of the breed standard. Um, and I feel like Kitties were a lot of those dogs back then got their size from. And Kitty is on the mom side, which is Pearl, and Crook, which we bred to. Um, Crook's mother goes back to that same lineage. So basically, I doubled up on Ring one generation apart, and on the dad side, which is Crook, it's going to be on his mother's side, and on Pearl, it's going to be on her dad's side. Buster was out of Cannon, who was also out of Kitty, and um, so I'm kind of curious to see how the size works out. Those dogs back then were very big, leggy dogs, so just kind of curious to see what's going to work. They're, like I said, they're weight wise, they're the biggest pups that we've raised out of 24 at this age, at this stage of their life. So Luke come down yesterday. Him and Crystal come down from Canada. They were making a little tour around West Virginia, Virginia. They stopped by, had supper with them. It was a great evening with them. This morning, I got up and my buddy Anthony O'Neill, who we had on the podcast a while back, we were down at Chipoke's doing some deer hunting with dogs. Anthony was down at a wedding, so I got each breakfast with him this morning. So it's been a good weekend, right? It's been a good weekend. So while Luke was down yesterday, we were sitting out on the deck and we got to talking about training. And let me be more specific. We were talking about trailing. He was asking me about Ring and his style. And Ring's claim to fame was that dude could rig a track, not a bear, a track, 2, 3, 4, 500 yards away, go pick up the track, start trailing it. and get up jumped and treed. And I don't. The dogs that I'm associated with now are definitely not that style. They rig and bear, right? We've talked about this before. So we were talking about ring a little bit, and we were talking about when I was up in Canada. Luke actually hunted with me one day while we was up there. He come up and hunted, and we got to talking about trailing versus dogs not trailing, and this was basically the topic of conversation. So you bear hunting guys that are training pups, if you do this, I'm curious to see, or I would be curious to know what your statistics are. So typically, when we're bear hunting, we throw a pup or two or three or whatever, four in my case, up in the truck, and we take them in the woods. And most of the time, and I say most, I'm sure that there's people that just dump them out with when the track starts, right? But most of the time, we wait till that bear crosses a road or it's jumped and it's ready to roll, and we dump that pup or two pups in on that hot race, right? That's how we get them started. Is bears up, pups in, bears up, pups in. So we got to talking about that, and we was talking about trailing. If is it because of the style of hunting we do? Is it training? And if you listen to the podcast that Jeff Shetler and I did, we both agreed that it was a training, it was a training um, thing with trailing. So I told Luke that all the dogs that I had started on coons, and I know some of you guys don't believe in that. And if I could hunt, if I lived in an area I could hunt year round, it wouldn't be an option for me. Because I don't, and coon season's in year round, it provides me the opportunity to get my young dogs out and get them started when season's not in. So when I started my dogs on coons, my dogs, all of them trailed. Every one of them, they would trail. And as I went away from that, I got in more into the more, and you want to use the term hot nose, but that's not technically what they're doing. The dogs that didn't want to get down a trail, they just wanted to run. And then you take in the account the conversation we just had is if you are just dumping your dogs on some hot bear right off the get go, they don't have to trail, right? And you're teaching them. You are using Pavlo classical conditioning, right? You're using classical conditioning to condition that dog to want to go, go, go. And if they never have to get down and trail, then first of all, they haven't learned it, and that would be my fault because I've not put them in environments or given them the opportunity to learn because I'm dumping them on bear that's crossing the road, and then when they're 2 years old, we're like, oh, that dog won't trail. Well, that's kind of on me, not them. The dog has the ability to do it, but I'm not allowed to do it. And in our case, right now, I feel like with the mange coming through, it's going to change. But like in our case right now, the bear population is pretty good, and I'm not in the dire need of a dog that can trail. Like I can go find a bear and run it, go find a bear and run it. Now, me personally, I want a dog that can trail. That's what got me into hounds. That's what got me into the police dogs is tracking, and that's what drives me. So a part of me is missing when my dogs are not trailing. So Luke and I had this conversation. We talked about it, and I'm still a firm believer that it's the style in which we are training our young dogs. It's our putting them right behind a hot race to get them going. Boom, boom, boom. That's the shortest method to get that dog from point A to point B. Bear across the road, dump him in. Bear across the road, dump him in, and then you can start packing them in, and they understand what their odor that they're running or they're trying to put it into, and so on and so forth. So that was something that I think we all should take a step back and understand what we are doing, and are we creating the um, the dog that we want, or are we just doing what we need to do out of necessity? So just food for thought. And while we're talking about trailing, I was thinking about this morning. So when we were in Canada, the very first morning, we had went into this one area and we turned off the hard top and literally went down a dirt road for a long ways. So going in that morning at daylight, 6 o'clock, there was no dust. Like 3 vehicles, nothing. Like went in, no problem. And then, of course, we treat a bear. We ended up getting after another one that we think. And of course, by the time we got everything caught up, it was 9, maybe 10 o'clock. And when we come out, you could not see the vehicle in front of you. So, as you make that observation, what is the weather? What is the environment? What are the conditions telling you? If you pick up that, hey, when we went in this morning, no dust. We come out 4 hours later, you can't see the vehicle in front of you. All the moisture that was in the air at 6 o'clock was holding the dust down. And as the time goes by, that 2 hours and 3 hours and 4 hours, that moisture had lifted, whether it be dew, whether it be humidity, whatever it may be, the conditions changed in a matter of 4 hours. And you know what? We went and checked numerous other sites that day. We didn't do nothing. Of course, I think we quit at 12 because it was getting pretty hot, but we didn't do nothing. So just an observation, when you're going in, the dirt roads are not dusty and you're coming out, and I mean, you can't see the vehicle in front of you. You got to think about how those conditions have changed and what does that mean for your dog. I thought that was pretty interesting. I've noticed it before, but I guess now my brain's working a little different because I'm like, okay, well, whoa, wait a second. What does this mean? What does this mean for me? What does this mean for the dogs? What does this mean for the conditions that I'm hunting the dogs in? So anyway, it was just an observation. I've seen it a bunch of times. I know you guys have seen it too, but are you taking note actually what's going on? So that's that. That was interesting. You should think about it when it happens to you. The pups, so the 10-month-old, the bee litter. I have been, and I'm going to post a reel, and I'm going to start trying to post this on my YouTube channel. But I've been watching a lot of the retriever guys, and I have done this before. I had a walker dog that I could walk off lead. He would literally stand beside me before, and then I don't care if the dogs was in there. If they were bayed up 100 yards from you, he would not go until I told him he could go. So the 10-month-olds, I've been working on a little capping their drive. That's what it is. And I know a lot of people are not a proponent of that. I get it. I understand. But it definitely does not diminish the drive of the dog. And we can prove that through endless training with our police dogs. There's nothing of more high value to that police canine than chasing down a decoy or having a suit on and that dog being able to apprehend somebody. That's the highest reward. That's high on the totem pole. That's the most value that dog has. And I can recall my dog. I can terminate my dog. I can call my dog off. There's so many things I can do with him. So I'm going to go through this process with the pups, and I want to be able to do the same thing. I want them off lead with me, and I do not want them to be released until I tell them to go. Is it important in what I'm doing? No, it's not. Most people probably kind of laugh and say, "Why? What are you doing this for?" Well, it's summertime. I got some extra time on my hands. It's hot in the evenings. I've been fooling around a little bit, just trying to find something to do. I mean, I've got them loading. I've got them leading. I've got them riding in the box. I've I've covered my bases on that part, but I want to have a little bit better handle on them. And I want to be able to call these dogs off a tree too. Like, let's go, let's, come on. And this is the foundation I'm going to set to do that. Is I'm going to start capping that drive a little bit. I'm going to do it unstimulated, and then I'm going to move up and start doing it with some stimulation, like for them, not E stimulation. Let me make sure everybody's on the same page with that. Stimulation is um, I'm probably going to get a piece of bear hide that I have and maybe tease them a little bit. This is what we do with our police dogs with a tug. Tease them a little bit and drag it off, go out of sight, and the dog's going to be carrying on and so on and so forth. And when that dog gets calm, boom, then he gets released. And it may take him a couple times. It may take him one time. And then as I do that, we up the stem for him, which means the excitement level, until he can control it. And then when he can control it, then we'll be ready to take that next step. So while we're talking about that, I've already started this process. And it's funny. I got 4 pups, right? And I'll just kind of run through them real quick. Briggs is catching on really quick, super high food motivated. I'm using a slip lead on him, so I'm not even using a regular lead. I'm just using a little slip lead. And like I've got him like doing pretty well. And then Bishop. Bishop is like a little box of dynamite, man. She's all over the place. But once she gets her head straight, she works pretty good, and she's food motivated. Bronx, he'll freeze up a little bit. Like he'll get to the end of that slip lead, and he's like, "Oh, what do I do? What do I do?" And then once you start working him with a little food, again, this is no stimulation. This is just bare bones, right? Once I start working him a little bit, like he catches on, he does good. And then there's Bridger. Bridger could care less about the food. So I'm working him the first day, and I mean, like he's putting the kibble in his mouth and just spitting it out. I'm like, okay. So I try it again. He does the same thing. He spits it out. Of course, Vice comes in behind him and starts picking up all the kibble that Bridger's not using. Bridger is tactile. Bridger likes to be touched and petted. So I go away from the food, I come back, and then I start petting him. Just calm pets. And boom, just like that, he started catching on. So I tell you that because, 3 out of the 4 dogs are food motivated. They do very well. And then the 4th dog could care less about the food, and I had to switch up what I was doing because he didn't care. So when we talk about cross training or using other methods, or one shoe does not fit all. Like it's not cookie cutter. We talk about that. Every dog's different. It just so happens that I got 3 that are pretty much on the same line, and then I got 1 that's over here on another line. And that's the things I enjoy, is finding out what makes them tick, what makes them go. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And how can I motivate them to do it faster and better and more consistent? So that's what I like about fooling with dogs is, sometimes it's challenging, right? Very challenging, but I love it. So hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll continue to keep you up to date on the puppies. Like I said, they're 19 days old. I'm going to start the imprinting process. I may start them at 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I don't know. I'm going to be at the beach for one of the weeks. So maybe when I get back from the beach and they're eating, they're eating mush or whatever, pretty good, I may go ahead and start imprinting them then and work them a little bit younger, so I can kind of get a feel for who's going to do what, who's driven. I'm curious about the lazy pup. Like I said, she likes to sleep a lot, but I like to sleep too, so no problem. So catch you guys next Wednesday.